Okay, it's 45. Dr. Pelizzo, I think
Right.
we can start.
But we have only 16 people. I was hoping to get a few more. So if you don't mind, let's wait for 1 minute.
Sure.
Because I see that we just got a few more participants in the last couple of minutes. So, let's wait another minute and then we start.
So Dr. Hassan, some general rules. You have 30 to 35 minutes for your presentation. And then we'll have 15 minutes for a Q&A afterwards.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, welcome to my presentation. I am Dr. Emily Monul Hassan. I am an assistant professor at the Department of Real Estate Development and Management. This is under the Faculty of Applied Sciences in Ankara University, Ankara, Turkey. So, I will discuss about the post-pandemic Asian cities, especially after COVID-19, and city planning and governance perspective. So really, firstly, I would like to express my heartfelt condolences to all those who lost their lives in Kahramanmaraş earthquake in Turkey. And really, it's around 31,000+ people have lost, and the 10 provinces have affected. So this is really pathetic for us, and hopefully we need to think about for post-pandemic or post-disaster related activities. Yesterday, we also discussed about this issue, what we'll do after post-earthquake. Even though we also, last week, have faced a lot of problems, not only in Turkey, but also all over the world, it's pandemic related problems. So we'll discuss about this. Firstly, I would like to express about myself, because if what I have, where from, I'm a Bangladeshi, and I did my bachelor in urban and rural planning from Khulna University, Bangladesh. Later on, I was admitted in Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology in urban and regional planning. But after that, I went to for Masters of Public Policy from University Brunei Darussalam. I pursued Brunei Darussalam Government Scholarship. Later on, I did my PhD in political science and public administration, especially in Ankara University. We have 3 branches. One is urban and environmental science, another is political science, and another is administrative science. So I did my PhD in urban and environmental sciences from Ankara University under Turkey Government Scholarship. So my experience, from 2019, I completed my PhD in 2019. And later on, I started my academic career in Ankara University as an assistant professor. And still I am continuing here, more than 3.5 years here as an academician. So before that, I was an advisor in the Statistical Economic Social Research and Training Center for Islamic countries. It is a YC subsidiary organization. And before that, I was a senior research officer at Bangladesh Center for Advanced Studies, which is the leading research and research center in Bangladesh, especially climate environment sector. And I was a town planner in various different land and development organizations and urban planning related organizations, which is like Probashi Polli Group, Neptune Land Development Limited, Chandrima Real Estate Development Limited, etc. And before that, when I was doing my master's in United University Brunei Darussalam, then I was a research assistant. It's about the urban service delivery project between Brunei and Canada. And before that, I was also the teaching assistant in Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology. So my research interest, especially in urban planning and policy, housing policy, housing policy, strategic planning, disaster management, climate change, and public policy. Especially all of these subjects, the research, my research focus, I am teaching here in Ankara University in these subjects. Like I am giving lecture in both bachelor and masters in urban economics and management, housing economics and policy, strategic planning, especially it is master's and PhD level, disaster management, both bachelor and master's level, and public policy is now bachelor level, because we have a course in real estate and public policy. So from my, I have around 20 peer-reviewed articles and 8 book chapters and more than 30 plus conference proceedings, and total citation is 131. And I have the associate editor in Journal of Disaster and Risk, Frontiers in Sustainable Cities, and regular reviewer in Journal of Urban Planning and Development by American Society of Civil Engineers, Journal of Urban Management, and Frontiers in Sustainable Cities. So this is the short bio of mine. So now I want to start my presentation, especially my topic. Today's discussion is about pandemic, post-pandemic Asian cities. What about the city planning, and what about the governance perspective, what we can do for future. Pandemics, especially COVID-19, has caused an unprecedented global crisis with millions of lives lost, thousands of families affected, unmanaged, and lack of planning and governance of cities or countries have paid highest toll. So we already know that what happened during COVID-19 period. And cities were the front lines of COVID-19, and still some cities are facing challenges. We can find also that we can find also coronavirus cases in many cities in the world, including Asian cities. Most Asian cities have faced an unprecedented trial, and from the past, and cities have moved from different dimensions due to its opportunities and challenges. So time to time, or era to era, the cities planning or city governance, or they have moved from different dimensions. And now you can see that in Mesopotamia in 5400 BC, that time the city was founded with better irrigation system. That time that the agriculture system also developed, and later on it has the new planning procedure have formed that the grid city, the hippopotamus plan, the grid city plan, it was before in BC in 498 to 408. And after that, we can find that the Renaissance, because commerce became the driving factor of city, commerce and activities, something like that. And from 15th to 17th century, it was the Renaissance period. And after that, in 19th century, we can find that the Ebenezer Howard in Garden City, the 3 magnets for quality living, like town, like country, and town and country together. So this is Ebenezer Howard Garden City concept. Later on, it has moved to skyscrapers of cities, like highest skyscrapers in parks, Bourdacker City, like Le Corbusier and Frank Lloyd Wright. They had the concept of skyscrapers in 1920, 1930. And after the mid 20th century, we find that the sustainable city movement, especially eco-city, blue-green city, green urbanism, biophilic city, something like that. Because in the mid of 20th, we found that there's some reconstruction, redevelopment, renewable, urban renewal, and many other this type of movements we found. It is especially in the mid 20th century, especially after the Second World War. And in the 21st century, we are now finding that a smart urbanism, because smart technology with ecological sustainability and urban biodiversity and so on. Now we have to think about the new way of thinking there, because what we can do that after post-pandemic COVID-19. So we'll discuss in this presentation. So this study critically reviews the planning, development, and governance response to the pandemic in 5 major Asian cities. I selected Ankara, Turkey, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Tokyo, Japan, Shanghai, China, and Singapore. These cities are experiencing, though, close to an irreversible outcome of pandemic, and the corresponding gatekeepers are at excruciating challenge to overcome these exceptional confrontations. Cities now are just for resilient cities or adaptive planning and governance and development alternatives, because now we have a new normal, new issues, new challenges. We have new challenges. So thinking about the resilient cities or resilient planning or adaptive planning, governance, and many other issues you can find. Because if you have a look, the UN SDG 11, because it discussed about the make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, because it should be inclusive cities, because value of all people and their needs and contributions should equally voice in governance, planning, and budgetary process, and should be included in the inclusive city. Safe city, it should be a safe city, as a resilient city and a sustainable city. Even though if you have a look, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, he mentioned that everything we do during and after this COVID-19 crisis must be with a strong focus on building more equal, inclusive, and sustainable economies and societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemics and climate change and many other global challenges we face. So especially we should have to focus about the UN SDG 11, and that should be inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities. Now, as I will discuss about the Asia and Asian cities. So now we have a closer look what is happening in urbanization and urban issues and COVID and pandemics and so on. Now you can find that the 55% of the world's population live in Asia. So it's more than half of the world population live in Asia, and around half of the world population, urban population, live in Asia. So 48%. And Asia's urbanization rate is 49%, while the world's urbanization rate is 56%. Because you know that the urbanization rate in Africa is higher than Asia, and you can find that the mostly densified cities or densely populated built-up areas, urban areas in the world, and especially in Asian cities, it has a growing cities, emerging cities. Many cities you can find there has a enormous development of real estate and many other sectors, not only economy but also other sectors. You can find the Asian cities. So in Asian cities, normally, if you have a look, that it is a growing middle class people and the poor class communities also available. Poor class communities, it's a very common scenario in many cities in Asian cities like Bangladesh, like Thailand, or many other. If you have a look, the poor class communities are a big part of a city. So in these cities, they have also another big challenge, like transport challenge, mobility challenge. So now we also find that the increased transport cost and travel time also very important. Last few days back, I was in Dhaka. So really it's a very challenging to go from one place to another. It takes a long time. So mobility also is one of the issue in big cities, especially capital cities in Asian countries, Asia. Uncontrolled urbanization and migration is also one of the challenges here in Asian cities. Another big challenge, what I am always talking, that the climate change and disaster have been essentially threats to sustainability and livability of cities. So this is climate change. It's a regular process, and sometimes that COVID-19 is a disruptive forces. So both regular and disruptive forces are happening in Asian cities. So all the Asian cities, they have faced some types of pandemics, not only COVID, but also in the past, like swine flu, SARS, MERS, many others. But they have learned their lessons from them, especially, and have. But from my research, I have found many research that they have fewer reflections on planning, policies, and development approaches. than COVID-19. So path dependency in optimistic bias of planning under the most favorable conditions has been a critical barrier to make the cities prepared and resilient against the probable worst case scenarios. So when pandemic hit, cities did not have any effective tool for planning interventions. Especially, we all know about this, what we'll do, how the cities will cope this pandemic and so on. But instead, they have taken some actions, like they choose for immediate actions or so-called quick fix approach. So immediately they need to do something, otherwise the city cannot move for economy, for other sectors. So such a quick fix approach might reduce the intensity of effects of pandemic temporarily, but it needs to be connected to a pathway for long-term sustainable solution. So such missing link between this quick fix and resilient solution has been observed across the world, including Asian cities. So that is so after COVID-19, so within few months, many cities, governments, they did some immediate actions, and that is a quick fix. And sometimes some cities, they tried to make it some resilient solutions, but not all the solutions are resilient, but they tried to make this type of resilient solutions. So that time, for example, in 2020, we find some that disjointed approaches to planning, development, management in city planning and governance, where the health infrastructure and well-being were put in silos, because health infrastructure, health well-being and so on, this sector is one of the major crucial sector in city. I can tell because in urban planning, urban development, or urban management, or city planning, city development or management, if you have a look, they must have to integrate the health infrastructure and well-being, but it was not much more focus about the past planning on development approaches. So I will discuss about the cases, city cases. So as it is, I will focus about Asian cities, but I have taken 5 cases and try to take a glimpse of the Asian city concept. So firstly, I will discuss about Ankara, Turkey, and Turkish capital city of Ankara is a rapidly growing city, very rapidly growing city. In 1920, it was only 20,000 people. Now more than 6 million people in Ankara. So Ankara has experienced regular waves of coronavirus during in COVID. So learning from the past experiences from Ottoman state, the Turkey adopted a much more state-led approach, central top-down approach, mainly after the outbreak of COVID-19, and formed a coronavirus scientific advisory board. So that time they formed a coronavirus scientific advisory board. This board is independent in political will. It is 38 people in this board, and Ankara's existing urban, strategic, and transport plans miss out approaches to make the city resilient against a pandemic. Because the Ankara's master plan, 1990, a 15-year plan, is considered as a vital plan for Ankara city planning and design, but there was no specific focus on uncertainty, risk, or pandemic-related resilient planning and design, and so on. Because I started this plan, even though Ankara, we can find that the 2015 Ankara structural plan and 2023 capital Ankara master plan and 2038 Ankara environmental plan were all prepared as a safeguards of green space, but still could not fill targets the green city concept, green city. So if we have a look, sprawl-based urban development is very common in Ankara. Very common in Ankara. So green areas are losing every day. Green areas are losing every day. So we are finding this. So Ankara has not pushed ahead with integrated planning to pursue resilient urban planning and design, including nature-based solution approach. So Ankara's example of urban policy and planning to combat COVID-19 is a way from effective implementation. So if you have a look, the plans and their implementations from plan preparation, but in the plan implementation is very implementation is very challenging here. Also, we find that Ankara's example in urban policy planning and to combat COVID really away from efficient implementation. So Ankara now, Green City Action Plan. So they are now preparing, not completed yet, to become a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive city through climate change adaptation strategies, circular economy, and so on. They have focused this, but has not a specific focus or integration about ongoing or post-COVID-19 urban planning, design, and management, or health and well-being, and so on. Because I have also already found some documents and discussed with my students, also those who are working in Ankara Metropolitan Municipality, and they said that they still have no any specific focus about the post-COVID-19 and so on. So, and for another city case like Dhaka, the capital city of Dhaka, it is also a rapidly growing and overcrowded city. You all know it is a complex city, very complex, with a population of 10.2 million. And this city, we are facing a decreasing trend of blue-green infrastructure, loss of nature, wetlands, and so on, because huge real estate development, and we can find here a social and economic divide in clearly seen during the crisis, including lack of social safety nets. Urban poor faced both food and health crisis and so on during COVID-19, and community level responses were effective to ensure health and safety for the most vulnerable. Especially, we found that some local level actions, locally lead activities also were effective during COVID-19. As Dhaka, a migrant city, and slum and informal settlements causing unsustainable development and asking a redesign housing landscape, because the housing, and so it is very closely related, very close each. So they need to think about the new housing concept and so on. So Dhaka prepared a detailed area plan. This is one of the major plan in Dhaka, detailed plan, as it is a detailed plan. So it is 20 years plan described as the Dhaka Nexus, proposes a polycentric arrangement for a greater Dhaka with a special emphasis on mobility, housing, wetlands, and transport. However, I have read the documents, and however, no special concentration of health and well-being infrastructure. So this is also one of the major issue after COVID-19. So around 50 organizations are involved in urban service delivery and management, but there is a lack of coordination and mutual interaction between the service providers. This is a very, the general here in Ankara, in Dhaka, because there is the very coordination is very less, and even the mutual interaction also very less. And poor service governance emerging in terms of frequent malfunctioning, limited capacity, bureaucratic complexity in service provisioning, lack of public accountability, and so on. So corruption also prevails a lot, and lack or low levels of transparency in city governance hindered health and well-being service delivery. Dhaka has not pushed ahead with integrated planning or pursue resilient urban planning and design. Lack of integration post-COVID-19 urban planning and design, because already the main plan, I can tell that the main plan, which is called the detailed area plan. So there is no integration or in the post-COVID or normal situation and so on. So Dhaka has moved to digital movement in business, trading, commerce, and so on, and proven a tool of some semblance of normalcy, because not only Dhaka, but also Ankara and other cities in the world, they have moved toward digital business and so on. So city authorities in Dhaka city authorities must work with communities to design the built environment, because local people in the communities, especially migrant communities and informal communities, there are a lot in Dhaka. So city authorities must work with these communities to design new housing, new building environment, and so on. Government has some intervention of plan implementation. However, green city-based plan or circular economy is still far away in this overcrowded city. So, for example, I am also working in water-sensitive urban design, water-sensitive city planning, and so on. So, Ankara city has implemented some green city, some nature-based solutions, but in Dhaka, really it is challenging to implement in nature-based solutions and so on. So, so there is in Dhaka need a urgency of new and innovative dense city planning and design. In terms of Tokyo, Japan, after the outbreak of COVID-19, Japanese government created a one-stop database on the real-time COVID-19 situation and has declared a series of state of emergencies to curb the spread of pandemic. Despite its high population density, the rate of COVID-19 infections and the number of deaths in Tokyo have been staggeringly low, because in Tokyo, they have, we all know that it is also a very crowded city, but Tokyo has been able to only offer 87 square meters of public space per person, or only 87 square meters. So efficacy in maximizing space use, functioning public policy, and quality of life for residents were the key factors to fight against COVID-19, as well as to keep the momentum of the city to support residents. So they have also taken the top-down approach also. So they showed that Tokyo showed how to maximize public space, integrate active transportation system, and place relentless emphasis on quality of life. So Tokyo plan, especially, I found that really they maximize the public space and so on. People, then they had no much more impact on COVID-19. So Tokyo continues to afford the key spirit of the city. Tokyo is meant for people by placing a fundamental focus on creating enabling conditions for them to live and thrive, because they have not much more impacted during COVID-19. But from I have found that in 2016, Tokyo prepared a 4-year action plan, which is called the New Tokyo, New Tomorrow plan. New Tokyo, New Tomorrow, focusing on the notions like safe city, diversity, a smart city that are inclusive and potential risks and uncertainties. So very interesting here that in this plan in 2016, in the 4-year action plan also, but they discussed about the safe city, diversity, and a smart city. But in terms of, if you have a look at Ankara in Dhaka, they have also the plan in detailed plan in 2016, but they have no about the focus about safe city or a smart safe city, something like that. So the recent future Tokyo strategy envisions an inclusive society where people shine and no one is left behind to achieve sustainable recovery. This strategy aims to strike a balance between recovery from the pandemic and a sustainable way of life for people. So the future action, the future Tokyo strategy also focuses about the inclusive society. So that we have found that the UN SDG 11, it is also focused on the inclusive city. So in Dhaka, we have not found this, that they had not much more focused about the inclusive or safe perspective. But in Tokyo, we found that the planning or a strategy, they have focused about the inclusive and also safe. It employs a planning approach that is human-centered and eco-friendly, because they are planning also the human-centered and eco-friendly. Tokyo until the 2040s, it is adapted to disruptive risks to realize a comfortable city where people can live with peace of mind. So if you have a look at the future vision of Tokyo, because they have discussed about the disruptive risk. So we don't know about this risk, what will happen in the future, but this is happening, not regularly. So Tokyo is trying to make the city a more comfortable for people for all people. Another example from Singapore. Singapore has the highest population density. We all know that more than around 8,000 persons per square kilometer in this Asian city. And Singapore, when COVID-19 started, the Singapore government, they set up a multi-ministry task force like Ankara. And three principles of they have adopted: the immediate yet long-term resilience that involves trade-offs of managing and pandemic-induced crisis, and summarized like lives versus livelihoods, and thoughtful and gradual reopening of intensified alert was found to be a more viable solution than a nationwide lockdown following major outbreaks. Community hygiene measures, safe distancing, and effective contact tracing system helped achieve the economic resilience in Singapore. Another principles like immediacy versus incrementalism. Though the pandemic access the resources was ensured on a priority basis to decide on who need them first. The decisive and incremental resource deployment strategy has been a mainstay to smartly manage the COVID-19 situation. And another is, I have found that the effective communication versus being diplomatic. The Singaporean government, they communicated the message of the seriousness of this crisis effectively to avoid any possible confusion or conflicts in order to create trust among the citizens. So such transparent governance helped people cooperate and share scarce resources that allowed the government to efficiently manage the pandemic. So we can find that Singapore, they like also Ankara, also they have the economic stimulus packages, operational and political capabilities also contribute to the low fatality rate and economic stability in Singapore during pandemic. So Singapore is pushing ahead. So pushing ahead with policy-centric and integrated transport planning to future decentralize residential and commercial districts. Aviation, even though I have found that the aviation become a city in nature has been planned to achieve through sustaining urban infrastructure and re-establishing ecological connections within the city. We all know that the Singapore, they have the forest city. So human and nature interaction also they can find in this city. Post-COVID-19 master planning will become more important in helping cities adapt for future health crisis, because in their concept about the not only for planning and development but also they are focusing about how we adapt to future healthcare crisis. So this city is planning for every household to be within a 10-minute walk from a park by 2030, adding 500 kilometers of park connectors. So as after COVID-19, because it is affecting the health, so health issue they considered in their health and well-being is considered in their city planning, and try to make the 10-minute walk from a park, so people can get everything within 10 minutes of walk. And another example, the last example, is the Shanghai, China. China sometimes on the brink of COVID-19 storm, especially the country's biggest city, Shanghai. Also, you can find, if you have a look, the COVID cases still available in Shanghai. Shanghai in 2 years were imposed from 27 March 2022 due to the growing outbreak of more than 400,000 cases so far, and the city was escalating its lockdown restrictions from then. So that means that the Shanghai is still, they have COVID-19 cases, also some imposing sometimes lockdown and so on. Before COVID-19 pandemic, Shanghai had reinforced its city resilience in space defense, engineering technology, and social governance, indicating its early preparedness for future uncertainties and challenges. So if you have a look there, here the COVID-19, they have their social governance, space defense, and so on. The post-pandemic master plan, they have also focused about the future health crisis. So future health crises are included in their master plan. The city is planning for every household to be within a 10-minute walk from a park by 2030 and adding 500 km park connectors. Here's the wrong there. It is a 15-minute walk from 15-minute circle. I will discuss later. The flagship planning endeavor is still lagging behind. However, the government's policy interventions in the long-term policy prescription are suggesting a vital effort towards a more resilient and healthier Shanghai. So Shanghai's drive together with technological surveillance through the smart city perspective as well as human surveillance through a top-down urban governance perspective seems an endeavor in combating existing pandemic-related challenges. So focusing from both the smart city concept as well as the governance from top-down approach. Another thing I can discuss about the Shanghai, because Shanghai has they focused about the 15-minute circle city. So because this city also discussed about the nation's zero tolerance COVID-19 strategy seems challenging from China's vaccination rate. Also, the city is a mega. This is a Shanghai mega city. It has formulated the guideline, planning, construction guidelines, and so on. And also they have categorized as innovation, coordination, green, open, and sharing units, and so on. So Shanghai started shaping long-term policy initiatives for a more resilient city that is greener and healthier. And it has given emphasis on walking and cycling as a means of transport, significantly increasing the relevance of the 15-minute community life circle. So 15-minute community life circle, this is on type of like a CBD approach, CBD, and prescribed for reducing the spread of COVID-19.
Dr. Hassan, the time is almost up.
Okay. Now I am going sum up my presentation. Like COVID-19 pandemic appears to remind in a state the significance of health infrastructure and its connected to enter planning. Ankara, Dhaka, Tokyo, Shanghai, and Singapore adopted a similar state-led and top-down approach, and local governments played a crucial role. We can find the quick fix or immediate types of actions. Singapore's preparedness and rapid state-led responses are praiseworthy and shifted. Really praiseworthy, and Singapore has focused about 10-minute city, but Shanghai aims to 15-minute city. But Ankara and Dhaka, they have not much more focus about. In conclusion, we can say that cities followed somewhat same pathway, more or less same pathway to survive, but Dhaka and Ankara's post-pandemic endeavor is still lagging behind, especially green infrastructure, control density, and so on. And all cities must now think to prioritize and integrate public health and well-being into future planning and development endeavors under urban adaptive, resilient, and inclusive planning and governance strategies. Even though Shanghai's 15-minute community life circle strategy can be an optimistic for us, because supply, and it is thinking about the supply and demand perspective and optimization of service delivery. So in post-pandemic city, we need to focus about economy, ecology, proximity, solidarity, participation, transparency, and equity, because for the future planning, action, and design. So finally, digital infrastructure for e-commerce, socialization, virtual work, education, etc., would truly add up to make the future Asian cities more robust. Successful city governance, more especially build back better effort, polycentric megacity regions, digital governance, green city action plans, etc., can make the future Asian cities more resilient and safer to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for an interesting presentation. I think now is the time for a Q&A session. We have 21 minutes, so please go ahead, ask questions, raise your hands, and Professor Hassan will give us an answer. Thank you. Go ahead, Dina. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. My first question is about the engagement of civil society into the development of master plan. You mentioned that all these examples that you provided basically adopted a top-down urban governance or top-down and state-led approach. So when we talk about good governance, in fact, it's about decentralization and the engagement of civil society. So what is the role of civil society in master planning in one of these examples that you provided? This is my first question. And second question, again, also related to master planning, because it is also a very big problem here in Kazakhstan, especially when we talk about Astana urban planning. So, for instance, in Astana, in Kazakhstan, we have such issues that our master plan can be changed quite easily. So, to what extent, for instance, master plan in those examples you provided can be easily changed or not? Because again, in Kazakhstan, we see this kind of merging of business interest with state authorities. And sometimes this, master plan is not directed or kind of serves the interest of the population, of urban population, rather than the interest of business within the framework of neoliberalism. So to what extent master planning in those cities can be changed easily or not? Thank you.
So I can answer start from your second question. Especially master planning is a statutory plan. So it is not easy to change. So before in the planning preparation stage, so they need to have to focus about this, and so all the master plans they need to focus about with the participatory plan. So participatory, so people should be incorporated in the process. So local people should be incorporated in the process. Then it is very easily to change or easily to manage. Otherwise, the master plan will not be viable or will not be successful. And another thing that the civil society development, especially in the COVID-19, you can, yes, I discussed about the maximum, all the cities I have found, Ankara or Dhaka, or they have mainly on top-down approach or local state lead approach, because COVID-19 during that time we find this type of approach. But it is also true that like Dhaka, Bangladesh, or some other cities in the world, we find the civil society is also one of the major actors during COVID-19, even the post-COVID-19. For my perception, from my experience and knowledge, I found that in Dhaka city, those who are living in slums and squatters, they are really urban poor. This type of urban poors, how they have coped with this COVID-19 pandemic, because that time this civil societies, they acted a lot, and that's why they have the Dhaka city poor people did not face a lot, have not faced serious crisis during COVID-19. But in master plan or in the city planning, especially my comments here that the government should include these people in the post-pandemic planning and post-pandemic. Not only people, but also these civil societies, those who work during the pandemic, because pandemic teaches us that the both not only planning, development, and development control, but also the health and well-being infrastructure should be included in the system, and that can be done not only from top-down or state-led, but also the bottom-up approach should be included in the system.
Okay, thank you. So my perception is that it's still like top-down approach, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Professor Nouri Siddiqui. You are muted.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for your presentation, for sharing your research, which is interesting and relevant. I have, well, my name is Noor Siddiqui. I'm a new staff member at GSPP. I have a question and a quick comment, if you could allow me. Your description about the post-pandemic situation of all these cities, I think, are fairly clear. The context and the current situation. But I was just wondering what is the main thrust of your research in this case, because you have been talking about so many things: governance, development, planning, transport, health, housing, everything comes under umbrella. I was just thinking, what is the intellectual or practical questions that your research is trying to answer? Or if, for that matter, is there any kind of puzzle that you are trying to unpack for us, trying to show the differences between these cities? So that's the question side. And in terms of the description, as I said, you explained fairly well, but I was not sure what was the kind of theoretical or the methodological basis of your findings or the details that you have presented. Why should we accept them? Whether they are robust enough and convincing. They are like just narratives of things that one can find in just by looking at the details in the newspaper or other sources. So what kind of methods or the theoretical framework that you have used in coming up with these kinds of conclusions? Thank you.
This is mainly a secondary based research. Even though I have also some primary based research in COVID-19, but this presentation is about secondary based. And especially the focus about that, yes, I discussed about the city planning and concept and so on. But the main focus of these that their cities have some commonalities, even they have some differentialities. These cities, that I am my point in to this presentation. Some cities like Tokyo or Shanghai or even Singapore, they had planned from 2016 or 2020, or they had, even though they had focused about safe city, inclusive city, and this type of concept they had. But in Ankara, in Dhaka, these two cities, they had no such type of action. So there are some commonalities and different this approach. Even though when the COVID-19, so after COVID-19, we found some that disjointed approaches. Some issues they have not integrated in their planning system or planning process. So some silos we have found in plan preparation and implementation process. That I focused in this research.
Thank you.
No more questions? Yes, there's a Galaxy Tab S6 question.
That's me.
Oh, hello, Peter.
Hello. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have one question, and it's in the debate on the evaluation of public policies, actually public programs. And the debate is that it's too easy to evaluate outputs of programs and not actually evaluating the outcomes of programs. And a lot of the statistics that you give in your presentation, for instance, from Shanghai, was like Shanghai that says the city is planning for every household to be within a 10-minute walk from a park by 2030, adding 500 kilometers of park connectors. That's an output, but how does that link to sustainable city? So the key thing here is that you're trying to get a sustainable city, a safe city, but how does that output of, how do outputs translate to outcomes?
So main focus here about in China, they have formed a 15-minute community life cycle. So this is central. It's like a central place theory what we discussed about urban economics.
Yeah.
So people can enjoy, people can avail their opportunities or their anything.
You're saying
their
you're saying something different now. You're saying people are enjoying it. So are these people actually, you know, surveying or asking these people these questions about enjoyment, or are they just getting numbers and assuming that the people are enjoying them?
Yeah, this
That's
is
the question.
some cities they are now practicing. Not only Singapore, or some cities they are practicing this 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So some cities they have a 20 minutes
Yeah,
practices.
I understand that. That's
Yeah.
not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, see,
Oh.
the 15 or 20 minutes, that's actually an output from a public program. But
Yes,
that's
yes.
the outcome is more related to the Sustainable Development Goals, that making cities
Yes.
more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So I want to go back and ask, how do these programs, how do the results from these programs that you've identified relate to, you know, making cities and human settlements more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable? So how are you going from these numbers, like, you know, 10 minutes walk, to these other components? How is that link being done?
This is a need intensive study, especially database study. Data need especially this focuses about the cities try to make more healthier perspective, especially. So
Yeah.
it is just one type of like circle. If you have make a buffer zone, then try to make it that the 15 minutes, if the walking distance, something like that. So this is just within this 15 minutes walking distance, people can get their everything easily. So this is just on terms of planning approach, not it can be implemented or not, but this is just as a planner, we are thinking about this way. So because one of the major factor during COVID-19, you all know that the mobility. So the much more mobility, more cost, even though more cost, something like that. So even the more spread of coronavirus and so on. So trying to make the cities very easy, healthier, green, and even including this concept also added some greenery concepts. So try to, this is just a planning approach, planning concept, something like that. New type of planning concepts are implementing this way. So people can get their maybe more healthier, more cleaner, more get adequate services and delivery very quickly and so on. Just this is a concept from urban planners, urban designers and so on.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer.
Omar, please.
Just to follow up, first of all, thank you for an interesting presentation. This is going to be a follow-up to Peter's question, and maybe elaborating or maybe clarifying at least the question marks on my mind. How did they arrive at this 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Is there a story behind this 15 minutes? Is there like some kind of an objective we reach and 15 minutes is the optimal amount? I mean, why not 14? Why not 16? I mean, is there some kind of logic behind it, or it is just easy to sell?
No, this is just, it depends on the population here, density of population. Because
yes, but is there a methodological result that connects this 15 minutes? 15 is the optimal. It's not 14, it's not 16, and it has to be 50. I mean, is there some kind of genius calculation behind this? Or is it just randomly picked number because it sounds nice?
It's true that I have no this type of research, but from my other research literature review, I found that the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, these three they are proposing many cities. So there is no any. It depends on the buffer zone. If you have a look, walking distance is 10 minutes. How, for example, in Dhaka, it's a very densely populated cities. So 10 minutes you can get easily. So if you go from other cities like Shanghai, they're thinking about the 15 minutes. If you go another city, they may be thinking about the within 20 minutes they can get everything easily. So this is not a rigid number, you know. It depends on the population density and so on. So even though I have no the knowledge about that, why this city is proposing 10 minutes, not 8 or 9 minutes, something like that.
All right.
Thank you very much. And Professor Bisalim, please. Lisa? Well, since Lisa...
Okay. Okay. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just have a quick question. As you mentioned about smart city during the pandemic, it's really best way to sort of responding a smart COVID-19, sharing resources between the city. But my question is that, well, in a natural setting, if you were to recommend to the government, the Ministry of Urban Planning, what would be the natural sort of way to do it between, you know, you said the government-led top-down approaches or the or bottom-ups? What would be the best way to actually sort of creating a smart city? And what are the challenges between two different approaches? Thank you.
I don't get the exact question, but in terms of a smart city, so a city should be smart, this all are measurable, reliable, and so on. So government, how we all discuss, we all know that the Singapore is a smart city because everyone we can visualize Singapore, that people can get their all information through by a click, get the information very easily. But there needs should government action so that they can minimize increase the health and well-being infrastructure and so on. Because if you have a look, a smart city not only there, the government should be smart. So in terms of that, how they easily manage, how they quickly manage any pandemic or any crisis, if it is a disruptive or if it is a regular forces. So, for example, now Turkey, they have, you know, the earthquake, and after that, how easily they can cope up this situation within the shortest period of time. So that means this is like on type of a smart government. So in Singapore also, if any phase or any activity this has happened, and government is doing very quickly and very easily so that they can identify. For example, yesterday, our department, we discussed about what we can do right now for in Turkey, because 10 provinces are already lost. There 42,000 buildings need to be destroyed in total. So because if it is, they have that good database, so it is easily to identify that how many people were there, what types of building need to be, for future action and activities. So a strong, smart governance need to be a good, smart database. Otherwise, it is not possible. So Singapore, they already developed this type of not only is a social infrastructure, but also a database good infrastructure. So they are managing everything very quickly and very easily. But now Ankara, or even in Dhaka or some, they have no such type of strong database, so they cannot manage this city future pandemic or future disruptive challenges or activities. So there needs a strong database and so on.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we still have a couple of minutes, so I take the liberty of asking a question myself. I think the presentation is very interesting, but one of the questions that I had is this kind of new city planning to make cities smarter. How is that instrumental in making these cities more adaptable with climate change? Because knowing that the park is 10 minutes away from my apartment or 15 minutes away from my apartment is a great notion. But if the temperature in the city keeps rising because of climate change and the fact that the sky building, prevents proper ventilation, and I'm not going to walk because it's too hot. And so, how is this approach supposed to actually to be a strategy for the amelioration of climatic conditions and for coping or possibly reducing climate change and these kind of problems?
Yes, especially in terms of climate change, we all know that it is the regular force, and the city government should have discussed about this issue. Firstly, city, for example, Turkey now, their ministry name, they have changed the urban urbanization, environment, and climate change. So, after they have this, the first distance, the city, they have did a lot of jobs like nature-based cities, nature-based solutions. They included in the planning system, even in the planning process. You can find also many actions and activities are there now doing. So that means that if you want to combat with climate change, the government should take some effective actions. Otherwise, it is not possible. So, for example, like water security in Ankara, they have, in order to change, Ankara is also facing serious types of water security challenges. But now they are also dependent on surface water. But now, as they are focusing about the green rainwater harvesting and many other sources, they are also focusing about these issues. So this is just an example. But if you have a look, the other cities like Dhaka, they are losing wetlands. But these wetlands should be kept because it should not be destroyed or lost. Otherwise, because climate change not only impact the people life, but also the impact of future generation. So climate change should be integrated in the planning system, planning process. Otherwise, it is not possible. And Turkey Ankara case is really a good example. When the government should include its name, the urbanization, environment, and climate change, then government do a lot of jobs. Now government is discussing about resilient cities, sustainable cities, and so on.
Thank you very much. I think we have reached the time to bring this meeting, pleasant conversation to an end. Thank you very much, Dr. Azan, for a very interesting presentation and for answering our questions. Thank you all for participating in our weekly webinar. It was great to see you, and I hope you also enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.